Hello, global gladiators. We're back with Street Masters Rise of the Kingdom. As of this recording, Aftershock is well on its way through the Kickstarter. The response has been pretty good. So far, it looks like we're just about to beat Street Masters Rise of the Kingdom's original Kickstarter numbers. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll put a link in the description. Give it a shot. See what you think. Hopefully you'll be inspired to come join our community and play the game. So being this timing, it's still October, and that means Halloween. We're going to be looking at the horror themed enemies and stages that are present in the Pestilence expansion that came with the original Kickstarter. So to begin with, we're going to have our enemies, the Nahualli, and this is an Aztec word for shaman. There's also Nahualli, which is a term for shapeshifter, but we're going to get more in terms of zombies than anything else. There's going to be spirits, there's going to be a lot of things trying to grab us. It's going to be a lot of fun. And the boss is Tlazolteotl, and if you're going to have one of the Aztec gods, she seems like the most fun. She is the goddess of filth, corn, adultery, vice, all kinds of good stuff. So we're going to play through and actually do a full playthrough this time. I've done a bunch of short stage videos, and if you have any problems getting set up, you can jump onto those. This is going to be more like the first video that I did, where it was a full playthrough with Kiryu and Natalia. This time we're going to keep Natalia, but I need some range because these guys are going to be really, really tough. If you did like I did and you played through all of the character stages, you will have earned some of the upgraded cards. I'm including them in this because the story takes place after the Rise of the Kingdom story, and I think I earned it. If you want to start from scratch, that's totally up to you. The bonuses in this story are a little harder to attach to the character stories because they don't really overlap with the stages or the other enemy decks as well. So it's a little better to do this after if you want to keep everything consecutive. And it's going to be tough, so we're going to need those extra cards. To get started setting up the stage, we're going to need to fish out the Unified in Death Prologue story. It's going to give us a little flavor text at the top, and we're going to see the stage we need is Rude Awakening. The enemies we're going to use, as described before, are the Nahualli, and we have some special stage setup instructions. After setting up the stage, each fighter places 1 damage on the stage rules card. So that means that our stage setup card, probably the backside where it'll have an activate, we're going to need to add damage. You can either put damage tokens or you can put the power tokens, whatever works for you to make it fit better. We have additional setup under Tlazolteotl, and it is to put the faithful card in play in the enemy play area and set all the faithful tokens nearby. You should have 10 of them and 20 of the remnants. So when you get set up, that's what you're going to need. If you're going to proxy for additional minis, I would suggest using possibly Zombicide. Green Horde works really well. It fits with the theme. If you want to keep with the theme, you could also do Zombicide Modern because they look more modern, and otherwise the tokens look like they're from the Aztec world 1,000 years ago. It's up to you, whatever floats your boat. If you have any Reaper or Descent or Mansions of Madness or any of the other boxes that have a lot of minis, you can throw them into because they scale to be about the same size. So there is a difference between the zombies. The one on the left here is the Remnant. The one in the center is the Faithful. And then you're also going to have the Pale Collars, which look like this. If you're hunting around in your box for the first time trying to find the minis, there are no minis for these. The Saddlers have several times during the course of the Aftershock interviews and things that they've done said they figured everyone pretty much has enough zombies. If you're a board game enthusiast, you probably have a bunch of them laying around anyway. If you want a suggestion from me where you can get cheap zombies, Zombicide is the best value. If you get Black Plague, or even if you were to just get the small boxes of Walk of the Dead or Angry Zombies or Toxic Zombies, if you buy the game, it'll be great, because then at least you can play the game. You got another one in your collection. And they're so popular that you can probably find a used copy on eBay super duper cheap with all of the Kickstarter extras. Alright, getting back to Street Masters, we're going to set up the stage. Right off the bat, we've got some areas of interest. You can see the boss is dead center, surrounded by those objectives. And there is these little spiky things surrounding what look like headstones. So we know we're going to have zombies, we've got headstones, we've got traps. We're going to have to figure out probably how to avoid the traps. Maybe we can use them to our advantage. And if the tokens are surrounding the boss, that can't be good for us. The entry points are all the way on the edges of the map. So chances are we're going to have to either defend the objective tokens, or we're going to have to keep them from going to the edges. So let's start by looking at the setup card for the stage. So as part of our setup for Rude Awakening, we need to create a supply of remnant tokens. Like I said, there are 20 of them in case one slid under the couch. You know you need to have 20. You can use pennies or some type of other counter. The tokens that you're going to put on the board don't necessarily make the easiest, cleanest table, so I like to use counters, and that's what I'm going to use here. That is going to all go into the enemy play area, and we're going to get one per player copy of NECROMANCER. So those are the objective tokens. We need to look at the map. Since we get to choose which NECROMANCER we're going to pick up, let's look and see where it would most effectively work for us. It looks like they're fairly equidistant. I only want to control as few sides of the board as possible. I'm going to go with one. I'm going to pick the green and the blue, because that seems like it might be easier to control that right hand side of the board. We'll throw on the loot tokens since they never change. And let's take a quick look at what those necromancers do. So we can see from one of their cards that they are an enemy. It looks like they don't have a lot of health, but they don't also die. So we're going to want to keep as few of them in place as possible. It looks like whenever you damage them, the damage carries over into like a stun state, and if they're active, they're going to be trying to move towards the graves. So it looks like we need to keep hitting them in order to keep them down and try to keep them away from the graves. Hopefully we won't go through too many turns that will result in more necromancers coming up than we can deal with. Hopefully the range damage and the RPG from Dmitri will help keep us controlling these fairly well. Let's flip over the stage rules and take a look at the rest of the card. It says here that each time a figure, so that includes the enemies, enters one of the spike pits, it will take 1 direct damage and stop moving, and enemies will try to avoid it, but they can be pushed into it. I think this will be really, really helpful later on in Aftershock. I believe one of those fighters can move things around the board fairly effectively, so that would be pretty cool. We do have some ways on some of the fighters to be able to knock back enemies, such as with Brandon. We'll see what we can do with the fighters that we've got. Every time that a remnant token enters an entry space, so those are the little cruciform looking like target reticle looking spaces. That's where the other enemies would come in. It's going to do a calculation based on the damage. So you're going to keep placing damage on the remnant card, and then you're going to compare that to how many tokens are left in the supply. So you're going to have to keep track of 2 different counters, and if you ever do more damage to the remnants than they have in the supply, you lose. Using the word damage is kind of confusing. I think in this sense, I'm going to put power on them because it's going to make more sense with what happens in the other stages, because that's what's really going on. When the remnants make it to the exit, they get more powerful, and if they ever get more powerful than there is a supply, that's the timer. And there's an activate, so every time there's a grave that has one of the necromancers next to it, you're going to start pulling those remnant tokens. So that's what we're going to be trying to do. We're going to try to take down Tlazolteotl, keep the necromancers away from the graves, and hopefully survive. Giving the stage setup a quick once over on the boss side, I have my remnants in play. I've got the supply set at 20. I have a ticker put on the stage card. Right now it's at 2 because I'm going to have 2 fighters. And the faithful card is in play in the boss play area. So we're all set up there. You may not have noticed that the story card said that we had to start with 1 damage on the stage card. So that's where the 2 power comes from, since I'm using power instead of the damage tokens for the purposes of this example. If you want, feel free to use the damage tokens, since it does tick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe that's easier for you than a stack of power tokens. You can use whatever you want. For the demonstration purposes, it's just a lot cleaner to do it the way I have it right now. The game starts by picking out the first fighter. I think the safest bet, since we're going to be using as much range on Dmitri as possible, is to go ahead and let Natalia, with her fancy fightin' panda Chan take the first turn. And come on, you know you wanted pandas versus zombies in this. Everybody's been screaming for it. So here you go, let's get started. As normal, we'll go ahead and pull our 4 cards for Natalia. So that'll make up her hand. But first, before we look at that, we have to pull a threat card, and we get flesh for flesh. This is a tactic for the boss, and that's unfortunate, because each time we kill a zombie, it's going to heal her for 2 damage. Fortunately, as soon as she's healed back up, then this is going to get shuffled back in. We're going to have to knock off those 36 health really fast. Otherwise, this is going to make it really difficult for us to keep up with killing zombies and knocking her out. Also, as a result, every time it becomes the boss's turn, she's going to summon a faithful. If there is no damage done by a zombie, each zombie engaged is going to do 1 grapple damage. This is telling us we're going to need a lot of grapple tokens to deal with this stage. Next, we get to actually do something with Natalia. The first thing I'm going to do is strategically place Chan by exhausting him. Within 3 spaces, he can give any fighter defense tokens. That's what I want to do. I want to move him as close to Hanzo and Dmitri as possible, while still keeping him in range of Natalia, and give the defense tokens. Let's go ahead and roll for the random tokens. First for Dmitri. Kick. Hanzo. He gets a kick. Then for Chan, he gets a grapple. And for Natalia, punch. Then what I want to do is move Natalia down. Since we didn't spawn any new minions, I'm going to try to take out one of those necromancers. The green one is my best bet, and I want to kind of angle her to keep in the way of the green one getting to that closest grave spot. So I'm going to try to create a pinch point by maneuvering her properly. Then, since Natalia is the most versatile fighter in the game, I have to think about what I want her to be able to do best. Right now, I need her to do enough damage to stun the necromancer she's next to. If I put commando into play, she gets more attack dice, and that's going to facilitate doing more damage. So that's what I'm going to do first for her card action. And now that I'm all beefed up, I'm going to attack for 3 against the green objective token. And I got 1 crit, 2 hits, so let's resolve the crit. And so that's another hit. That's 4 damage. We need to keep track of how much damage went towards the necromancer. We're going to flip the token inactive and set up a counter. To finalize the resolution of Natalia's crippling strike, we need to draw a card. Then we would normally go to the react phase. Right now there's nothing in our threat area, so we'll just go to draw a card and move over to Dmitri's turn. The first thing we'll do is pull a threat card. We get Decaying Blast, and what it says is that the nearest fighter to Tlazolteotl is going to take 3 general damage, and if they took any damage, which means it wasn't blocked, then this becomes a threat card in their area. Natalia is the nearest fighter, so she's going to take the 3 damage. She doesn't have enough tokens to block it. She's going to be able to block some of it, but unfortunately it's going to hit her. This is going to be a problem because every single react phase she's going to get hit for 1 general damage until she takes a total of 10 damage. That doesn't mean that you're tracking how much total damage she took and blocked and all that kind of stuff. No, she has to be reduced, in her case, down to 8 health to get rid of this card. So we're really going to have to think about, how do we want to handle her heals? How do we want to handle her blocking? And there's probably more than one of these Decaying Blasts in the deck. It could start withering down Dmitri too. Now it may turn out to be a mistake, but I'm going to go ahead and accept all of the damage onto Natalia and try to get down to that 8 health as quickly as possible to get rid of this card. I don't want to get stuck in a trap where I end up increasing the amount of heals and defense tokens and never be able to get rid of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my 4 cards now to fill the hand for Dmitri. The one thing about the Nahualli is they don't have a lot of minions. Most of the enemy decks have 13 minions. These guys don't. There's only 5 cards that will generate loot when they're defeated, and that's the Pale Callers. In order for me to get some loot and be able to maximize the damage that Dmitri's going to do when I need that big hit, I need to make a dash all the way down to the nearest loot crate. The loot I was able to pull out of the loot crate was a pair of sneakers that's going to add to a kick attack, and I have Heel Crush. That is a kick attack in my hand, so that'll be awesome to get close enough to hit somebody and really do some damage. And then I'm going to play one of his tactic cards. The one that's going to be the most benefit to me is Snapshot. When he gets ammo, he's going to be able to discard one of his defense tokens, put some ammo on the Snapshot card, and then exhaust to be able to do 1 general damage. Since there's so many tiny enemies that have only 1 health, the remnants and these necromancers, it's going to be invaluable to me to use this exhaust ability to hit as many targets as possible. The last thing I can do on this turn is exhaust Hanzo and try to move him into a position that hopefully he won't get hit by Tlazolteotl. He can give 1 power to any fighter. There's no ranged that is on that effect. And since it takes so much to get Dmitri to flip, I'm going to go ahead and start stacking power on him. Then, since there are no cards in Dmitri's threat area, we're going to go ahead and skip to the draw phase, and then that leaves us with the boss's turn. Fortunately, we weren't able to take out both of the necromancers, so we're just going to have to deal with that. And just because Tlazolteotl is drawn to look like Nicole Kidman dressed up like Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn doesn't mean she doesn't hurt really bad. And what she's going to do for her attack, since she's currently unengaged, is hit everyone except Hanzo, who's out of range, for 3 general damage. Natalia is going to have to accept that damage in order to try to get rid of that affliction, and the others, we're going to use up whatever tokens we've got right now to try to mitigate as much health loss as possible. The secondary effect of putting an affliction card from the discard pile won't affect us right now because there's nothing in the discard pile. This is a great time to have taken these hits. Thankfully, there's nothing that can do more damage to us. Hopefully, we'll be able to get closer to range with her and prevent that from happening in future turns. The next step is we need to go through her tactic cards and activate them. The first one would be Remnants, but there are no Remnants in play. The next one will be Faithful, so there are no Faithful in play. And finally, we go Flesh for Flesh, and it would normally cause every zombie to attack. There's no zombies in play, so it's going to spawn 1 Faithful next to Tlazolteotl. Then we need to start resolving the stage cards. The first one will be the stage card itself, and since there are no objective necromancers next to any graves, we're going to go straight to dealing 2 damage to each fighter. Then we go to the blue necromancer, and the rules of the necromancer say that it's supposed to match up to one of the graves. That is errata. It will be addressed in the Aftershock update pack or as part of the Aftershock tier. For now, I got a ruling from Brady Sadler that says it's supposed to go towards the nearest grave icon. And since we're equidistant to 2 of them, we're going to go to the one that's most advantageous to me, and that's the one closest to Natalia, and we're going to try and set up that pinch point. Finally, the green necromancer is inactive, so we will heal 1 damage off this card. So now that everything's activated, we have to pull a stage card, and we get pulled below. So everybody's going to get hit, and they are going to get pulled towards the spikes. We could pay grapple defense tokens, but unfortunately we don't really have a lot after all the hits we've been taking. So Natalia, Dmitri will definitely get pulled in, and Hanzo and Chen Chen will just get pulled closer. That is going to end the stage turn. This time I think we're going to have Dmitri go first. We want to get him and Hanzo as close to Chen Chen to use his ability, and hopefully we'll be close enough also to use Dimitri's abilities and attack either the Faithful or Tlazolteotl. As always, for a new round, we're going to pull a threat card, and we get an affliction known as Ageless Burden. So these afflictions, they're like an enemy that always stays engaged with you. Maybe we can make use of those sneakers and that heel stomp and try and get rid of it. Otherwise, this card is just going to keep attacking, and every time we take a step, it's going to do a general damage. So we really need to get rid of it quickly because we need to be on the move. I'm going to go ahead and use my Heel Crush card action. It's going to allow me to do 2 dice worth of kick attack, and that will allow me to use the sneakers. Let's see what happens when I roll for 4. Alright, so I got 2 criticals and 2 hits with 1 defense. So let's roll the 2 criticals. And I got 1 hit and 1 defense. So that's going to be a total of 5 hits, 2 kick defense. Dmitri didn't manage to hit Ageless Burden for enough to defeat it. He's going to have to use his regular action to do that. So he's going to roll for 2. We're going to hope for whatever we can as far as crits, and let's see what happens. Thank goodness we got 1 crit and 1 hit, and let's see if we can do another damage. Oh my gosh, another crit. Let's see what happens just in case we get another defense token. And another crit. Oh man. Okay, let's see what the next one is. And another hit. Okay, so we overkilled on Aegis Burden. It's gone. It's an affliction. It's not necessarily a minion, so we're not going to get a loot card from it. Hey, at least we got rid of it, and now we can move. We're going to try and get as close as we can to Tlazolteotl, and because of Dmitri's wet work attack, he can get 2 defense tokens of his choice and place up to 2 ammo on cards he controls. Both of those ammo are going to go onto his snapshot tactic, and that'll allow us to do more damage at range. I'm going to go ahead and use one of those ammo, and snapshot is going to get exhausted. It's going to allow me to do 1 general damage to an enemy within 4 spaces. That'll be the Faithful. It only has 1 health. It will be eliminated. Unfortunately, we still have flesh for flesh in play, which means that Tlazolteotl will heal for 2, but she doesn't have any damage, so she's not really going to heal, but it still triggers flesh for flesh, and when she has no damage left to heal, it gets shuffled back into the deck. And then exhaust Hanzo to move him as far away as possible from Tlazolteotl, and hopefully he won't get hit because his health isn't very high and we need to do some heals on him. The last bit of cleanup: when the Faithful are killed, instead of getting a loot card, the person that killed them gets power, and when Hanzo exhausts, he gives power to a fighter. I'm going to put both on Dmitri, moves him up to 4. I also got too excited from getting rid of the affliction with all those criticals. I forgot to assign the defense tokens for Dmitri from his basic attack. He's going to get 1 punch and 1 grapple because I get to choose. Then finally, since there are no cards in Dmitri's threat area, he's just going to switch all the way over to drawing a card and ending his turn. Unfortunately, Natalia's got a lot going on right now. She's going to have to not only disable the Necromancer that's currently mobile, hopefully she'll do something against Tlazolteotl that will damage her and hopefully start that process of whittling her down and defeating her. We got rid of the heal that she had. We need to defeat her as quickly as possible so that heal doesn't come back up. First thing, we have a bonus every time we exhaust Chan Chan. We're going to get some defense tokens we sorely need. Let's go ahead and do that and use him to attack Tlazolteotl. He normally has an attack of 2, but right now she doesn't have any defense tokens, so we're just going to go straight 2 damage on her and leave it at that. Let's roll for the defense tokens for Dmitri. Punch. Then for Chan Chan. Kick. And Natalia. Kick. Now we need to start making some decisions with Natalia. The first is, what action are we going to use? Fortunately, Commando is already in play, so we can use our action to give each fighter 2 defense tokens of their choice, and then if they have 1 of each, they heal 2 damage. Thanks to Chan Chan and the other efforts that we've made in the last little bit, we should be able to heal everyone for 2. Then the next thing we need to do is move down into range so we can hit that blue Necromancer and keep them from advancing. We've already used our abilities, our actions, so now we need to use one of our cards in order to do this attack. We have a couple options. I'm going to use Sonic Blade because having attack cards in Natalia's discard is advantageous later on in the game, and if it's an attack instead of just an ability, Commando will add +1 damage, proving that it is one of the best cards in the game. So here's 3. So we got 2 hits and a crit. And we got another hit. So we're going to do a total of 4 damage to this Necromancer. Finally, we have to do the react phase, and that is Decaying Blast. 1 general damage will be done against Natalia. I'm going to go ahead and accept it, and then we're going to draw a card. Nope. Wait, hold on. Alright, I'm not going to go back and reanimate everything. I forgot to do the threat phase. Silly me. But it looks like we just got another decaying blast. So what that'll do is it'll do 3 damage to Natalia. And I'm going to go ahead and accept all of the damage. This is going to bring us back down to 8. And what it'll do is once the card activates as part of the react phase, both of the decaying blasts are going to go away. I will go ahead and accept the damage for both of the decaying blasts. That's going to bring Natalia back down to 6. Then she can finally draw a card and end the turn. That begins the boss's turn, and I'm going to try not to forget to animate the turn cards so I won't make that mistake again. Alright, so Tlazolteotl, she's going to make her attack against Chan because that's who she's engaged with. And they also have the least defense tokens. She will attack for 2, and then afterwards she'll retreat 2 spaces and summon 2 faithful. She will go ahead and roll for the 2 attacks. 2 punches. And since Chan is an ally, he has to use his defense tokens. Then she does her retreat, summons the faithful, and they get an opportunity to attack now as they activate the remnants. There's none on the board, so we're just skipping that turn. The first faithful will move towards Chan and attack for 1. He attacks for fist. And then the other is closest to Natalia, so he'll attack her for 1. And does a kick. That should be the end of the boss's turn. Now the stage is going to activate. Right now we don't have any of the necromancers active and near the graves, so it's just going to deal 1 damage for each of the power on the card. Every fighter is going to take 2 general damage, so goodbye to those defense tokens. And then we are going to take 1 life or 1 damage away from each of the necromancers. Then it's time to draw a card for the stage. We get Symphony of Rot, and it's looking for remnants. We don't have any. And for each active objective, we don't have any. So thankfully, we're not going to get hit by this one. Hopefully, we can do some real damage this turn and take advantage of this boon we've received. All right, so that means Dmitri's going to go first. We're going to get him ready. And the reason why I want him to go first is because I think I need to move Hanzo closer to Chan to try to get the bonuses. And the threat card he's going to pull is the Blue Pale Collar. Now, this is also a zombie, but it doesn't seem to want to go towards the graves. It's going to come in at the closest spawn spot to Dmitri. Okay, he's a little bit tougher, but hopefully we won't have to deal with too much healing and other stuff. Now, for the rest of Dmitri's turn, we're going to need some clever timing. Why? It's because we need to play Fire in the Hole. This tactic card is kind of the central card of this stage, at least for my strategy. What it allows you to do is basically fire Dmitri's RPG onto a hex and blow up everything around it, dealing 4 general damage. And when you have all these zombies, and the thing about Tlazolteotl is she doesn't really generate a lot of defense tokens, so this high general damage, it's going to hurt her pretty bad. Typically, if you're going to get a high damage card that you can use a lot, it'll do general damage because it'll melt away the defense tokens a boss may have and not be too overpowered. But in this circumstance, for the stage, it's perfect. So that's what we're going to be basing the turnaround. We need to feed it with ammo. So I have to get Dmitri close enough to something to hit and generate ammo. Since the Pale Collar is going to pull in a faithful of its own, I want to go ahead and use Dmitri to kill the faithful that's next to Chan. That'll also, hopefully, assuming I get a hit, allow me to take out the faithful as well as put some ammo on the cards I need for the next round. Gonna go ahead and attack for 2. I get 2 defense. So that's 2 punch tokens, and that faithful sticks around. Yeah, can't win them all, folks. But what it does allow me to do is put 2 more defense tokens into place, and I can put ammo, so that part's good. I can expend one of these ammo and exhaust snapshot and still get rid of this faithful. Then finally, I'm going to go ahead and exhaust Hanzo, moving him closer to where the action is. Hopefully on the next turn, if not too much else is going on, the combination of Hanzo's attacks and Chan Chan's attacks will take out that Pale Caller. Speaking of the Pale Caller, so it's going to activate for the react phase. It will summon a faithful. Okay, not the end of the world. And from then on, it doesn't move or attack or anything else. Nothing's within range. We'll go on to Natalia's turn. Pulling a threat card for her. Another Pale Caller. We get the green one this time. That's going to complicate things because that'll leave a faithful on the board for the boss turn. Alright, changing up the strategy. We need to leave 2 faithful on the board. The faithful that are attached to the Pale Callers are what I'm going to leave there. So let's move Chan Chan down and attack the faithful that's left. I don't really need a roll for it because he just does 2 damage. There's no defense tokens, and you know, it's kind of pointless. But you do need to roll for the defense tokens for Dmitri. Grapple and Chan Chan. Punch and Natalia. Grapple. So Natalia's turn is going to get a little complicated. I'm going to move her down close to Tlazolteotl so that she's within engagement range. And then I'm going to use the Feint ability on Commando, which allows me to play an attack card from my discard pile. What I've already have in the discard pile is Sonic Blade, and that will allow me to attack for 2. The bonus from Commando, because the feint was used, won't apply to Sonic Blade, so it's just going to be an attack for 2. We have a crit and a hit, and another hit. Okay, so since doing the feint action included movement, that means that we still have our movement, we still have our regular action, and our card action. So I'm going to play another Commando. This is the upgraded Story Pool Commando. I mentioned way back at the beginning of the video that I had played through all of the stories for all of the characters, and I earned some upgraded cards. This is an example of one of those cards. You get one of them, and you replace one of the normal cards with this one, so the card counts don't change and the way that the deck runs doesn't change. It just gives you a little bit of an upgrade. And this is going to give us the same +1 to damage, which is super cool. But it also has the regular action ability that we're going to use. So each fighter is going to gain 2 defense tokens of their choice, and then each fighter with at least 1 type of the defense tokens, which all of them should have, are going to heal 3 damage. This is what's going to save Natalia's butt and why it didn't matter so much that she was down to 6 health. I went ahead and moved her back over by the Necromancers because I need to be able to do as much damage as possible to them and, you know, keep them from moving around. So keeping her close by makes it easier for later turns. And I have to do the react phase. The Pale Caller, there's nothing to attack within 3, which is good for us, but bad for us. It's going to spawn a faithful. Finally, we'll draw a card and then go to the boss's turn. And since Tlazolteotl is engaged with Chan Chan, and Chan Chan has the lowest number of defense tokens right now, she will attack for 2. A punch and a kick. Then she's going to go ahead and retreat her 2 spaces and spawn in the faithful. The faithful are all going to move for 2, and then they're going to try to attack for 1. The only faithful that can reach anyone is Dmitri. He'll be attacked for 1 punch, and Chan Chan will be attacked for 1 kick. That wasn't the end of the world, but now we got to move over to the stage turn, and the first things first, everybody's going to get hit for 2 general damage, and then the Necromancers are going to heal 1 each. Then we're going to pull a card. We get from the Afflicted Realm It says one fighter may suffer any amount of direct damage to discard an equal number of damage from the stage rules card. Well, let's see. Almost all of the health is still on Dmitri. He's going to heal constantly from Natalia just about every round. So it makes perfect sense that we would reduce the stage damage down to 0 so we can stop getting hit for 2 every round and put that on Dmitri. That ends the enemy turn, and it's time for Dmitri's turn. He's going to pull a threat card, gets Avenging Essence. So this is treated like an enemy, and we have to do 4 damage to it to get rid of it. And every time it takes damage, the fighter it's attached to is going to take damage. But the damage it's going to take is general damage, so at least we can block it. I'm going to do something a little on the crazy side with Dmitri. I'm going to blow myself up. So let's take a quick look at how we can do that. Before I move, I think I want to go ahead and use my last bit of ammo on Snapshot and take out this Faithful. Now I'm going to use my move down to the center of this big cluster of enemies. And then I need to use my action to use up the ammo on Fire in the Hole. And the space that's directly below Dmitri, I'm going to use as the center of the explosion. It'll take out one of the Faithful. It'll hit Tlazolteotl for 4. But what it's also going to do is hit Dmitri for 4 and the affliction for 4. So when the affliction takes 4 damage, it will also deal 4 damage to Dmitri. His total damage take is going to be 8. And we're going to use as many of the defense tokens as we can. That will turn them all back into power. And I still have a chance to use a card action with Dmitri. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Battlefield Commander. And it allows me the option of discarding a card I control to choose a fighter. And that fighter may play a card or perform an action. I'm going to discard Snapshot. That gives me an action. I will use Lock and Load since I'm on the charge side, which will allow me to move 2. And I move down and attack Tlazolteotl for 3. And we get 2 crits and a hit. And resolve those crits as a hit and a defense. One thing you may notice is I didn't flip him back to the normal side. Instead, I reduced his power. The power that you have stored on a card immediately transfers over to the charge side. So in this instance, it would just take 8 power and he'd stay there, and that's how you would resolve it. Now I'm going to go ahead and exhaust Hanzo, and I think I'm going to try to bring him down further towards where the rest of the action is. Finally, the blue pale collar is going to spawn one of the Faithful, and Dmitri will draw a card. Then Natalia is going to pull a threat card. She hits the purple pale collar and makes me question how well I shuffled this deck. I think the most efficient use of this turn is going to be first starting with Natalia's Rush B card. This is going to allow us to do enough movement and damage to take out the Faithful. Since Rush B creates 1 direct damage for each of the targets hit, the Faithful are going to be killed no matter what. The only thing we really need to roll for is to find out if on the 2 attacks we're going to be able to generate if we get any defense tokens. So let's roll. And we do get 2 defense tokens. In addition to all that, one of the spaces she moved into when she defeated the Faithful happened to carry a loot token, and the card she gets is Shuriken. Next, I'm going to move back up towards that pinch point and then use Chan Chan to generate defense tokens for everybody. Since everyone is in range, we're going to start with Hanzo. Get to grapple, then Dmitri. He gets a grapple, then Chan Chan. He gets a kick, and Natalia. She gets a kick. Then use my action with Commando to do healing and give everyone defense tokens. leaving just the react phase. The green and purple pale collars, there's no one in range, so they will each spawn a faithful. Finally, we'll draw a new card and move on to the boss's turn. Since Tlazolteotl is engaged with Dmitri, she will attack for 2. And she's going to do 1 punch and 1 grapple. She'll then retreat 2 spaces and summon 2 faithful. Then the faithful will be the next to attack, and they're going to attack 3 of them against Dmitri for punch, grapple, and kick, and 1 of them is going to be in range to attack Hanzo for a grapple. Then we're going to move on to the stage turn, and right now the stage itself, since we got rid of the power last time, it's not going to attack us. The green and the blue are going to remove 1 of the damage from each, which will allow the green to flip back to its active side. Then we need to draw a stage card. We get a red NECROMANCER, so yippee. And that's it for the stage. So now that we have another NECROMANCER, I think we're going to have to maybe use Dmitri first. We'll go ahead and pull a threat card. What we get is Enfeebling Hex, and this actually might work in our favor. It deals us 2 general damage, and Tlazolteotl gets the defense tokens used to block that damage, but we need ammo, and right now we have so much power put on Dmitri that we actually need to give Tlazolteotl the defense tokens to be able to put ammo back on the cards that we want to use. So the first card we're going to do is to exhaust Hanzo. Give a power to Natalia, and then move him next to the red token where he can attack for 4 now, and that will give us at least 4 new turns to not have to deal with that objective token. Now for Dmitri himself, we're going to need to clear the path a little bit so we can get down to Tlazolteotl, because we want to be in engagement range in order for her not to do her big area attack, and we want her to just be targeting Dmitri. So the first thing we're going to do is use our basic attack for 3 against one of these faithful in order to clear it out so we can move. That gives us 3 hits and a power, so the faithful goes away, and we're going to move down to Tlazolteotl. The important card that we're going to use right now is Rearm, which is going to allow us to attack for 2, and also, since Tlazolteotl has no defense tokens and she will be still alive at the end of the attack, we'll be able to put Snapshot back into play. And that is 2 hits and 2 defense. Then we're going to go and get hit by our react phase. The pale collar in blue is just going to summon another faithful, and the enfeebling hex is going to do 2 damage to us. I'm going to go ahead and just accept the damage instead of using the tokens, because I'm going to get healed by Natalia anyway. So I will draw a card, then pass it off to Natalia for her threat phase. We're going to get a yellow pale collar. I don't know how well I shuffled this thing. I try to shuffle it every deck 15 times, but I guess we just got a lot of pale collars in a bunch. So the first thing I'll do is exhaust Chan Chan, move him down to where he's in range of everyone so we can get as many defense tokens as possible. Dmitri gets a kick. Hanzo gets a punch. Chan Chan gets a kick. Natalia gets a grapple. The attack he's going to do is going to be against one of the faithful. They just go away. They don't have defense tokens. We don't really need to go through with it. I don't really have a lot of options for Natalia's turn, so I'm going to do Sonic Blade. Because of Commando, it goes up to 3. 3 hits and 1 defense. That defense is going to be a punch token. So the green Necromancer will take the 3 damage, and then we're going to do the action on Commando. Everybody's going to get their tokens and heal. Then we got to go to the react phase. The pale collars are going to spawn their faithful. Then we're going to draw a card and move on. First thing, Tlazolteotl will attack Dmitri for 2. Kick and a grapple. She's going to retreat and spawn her faithful. Then the rest of the faithful will move. One will attack Hanzo for a kick. 2 will attack Dmitri. 2 grapple. 1 will attack Chan. Kick. Then we have to heal the damage on the necromancers. The blue one will go back to activating. We'll pull a card. Symphony of Rot. Not much else happens, but for the first time we have a remnant popping up. Because of the remnant, we're going to go ahead and let Natalia start this turn. She'll pull a Foul Prophecy. The cards at the top of the decks are these. Neither of these are tactic cards, so they're not necessarily going to be in play. We're just going to have to take 1 general damage and discard a card. Then Chan will go ahead and attack the Faithful so everyone can get their defense tokens. Hanzo gets grapple, Dmitri gets grapple, Natalia gets punch, Chan gets punch. Then for her card action, Natalia is going to use Rush B in the following circuit. She's going to take out all of the tokens because they only have 1 health, but we need to roll 8 just to see if she got any defense. And she got 2 defense. Then she's going to run back over to where she was to attack. And she gets 2 hits, defense, and a crit. And another hit. With the special charge ability, she gets an additional direct damage. So she's going to do 5 total to the objective token. The Pale Callers will now spawn the Faithful, and we'll draw a card. Just as a last minute thing, I think I'm also going to throw the Shuriken at the Enfeebling Hex. Which does nothing because I pull another Enfeebling Hex on Dmitri. So I'm going to start by doing an attack against the Faithful for 3. So that's a crit, a hit, and a hit defense. And another defense. Then I'm going to go ahead and play the story mode of Battlefield Commander, which is going to allow me to do another action. And I'm going to attack Tlazolteotl. Since I'm back on the normal side, it's for 2. That's 2 hits, and I get to put 2 ammo and 2 defense tokens. Hanzo will move down to assist Chan, and the only thing left is to spawn the Faithful for the Pale Caller and take 4 general damage for the Enfeebling Hexes. On her turn, Tlazolteotl will attack for 2. Kick and a punch. She can't really go anywhere, and she has no room to put any Faithful in, so that won't happen. The Faithful are now going to move. They're going to attack Dmitri for a punch, and Chan for a kick. Then the Necromancers will all heal 1 damage, and we'll pull a stage card. Another Necromancer, so we have all 4 now. Alright, so that pretty much gets us set up. Unfortunately, I'm almost at the end of my setup time, so I'm going to explain to you what my next steps would be and how I think I'm going to kill Tlazolteotl. And you can leave in the comments if it was a good strategy or a bad strategy, if you think I'm going to win or if you think I'm not going to win. I'm going to keep using Enfeebling Hex to put punch tokens onto Tlazolteotl, and that will allow me in my charge state for Dmitri to put all of the defense tokens she used into ammo. I'm going to put all of that ammo into Snapshot. With 5 ammo on Snapshot, I'm going to use this version of Soldier's Discipline to deal 5 direct damage to Tlazolteotl. Then do the Feint on Snapshot, which will allow me to do another 5 damage to Tlazolteotl. And then the action on Fire in the Hole, which will do another 4 damage. So that's a total of 14 damage, and she has 19 left. This should take about 2 turns, and for those 2 turns, I'll completely ignore the Necromancers with Natalia, move her down as close as I can to Tlazolteotl, use Razor's Edge, and her regular attack, hopefully kill her. So, I know it's been a really long video. I did my best to explain everything. Sorry we didn't get to the end, but it's a ton of work to try to extend it past an hour, and I really want you to get this for Halloween. Thanks very much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or, like I said, feedback, let me know if you think the strategy will work. go ahead and contact me on the Street Masters fan Facebook page. I'm pretty active in there. You can contact me in the comments on the YouTube channel. And otherwise, have a good one. Happy Halloween.